Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Up Close on METV. I'm Charles Clapsaddle, station manager for Manatee Educational Television. And it's our great pleasure to have with us today someone who has truly made a difference in our community, in our region, and in our state. Because out of a tragedy that occurred within her life, she's made the lives of so many other people that much better. Please welcome Christine Olson. Christine, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a very special story with us. I want the audience to know that this is the 10th year anniversary of your daughter's passing, Tiffany. We want to hear about that terrible tragedy, but also what you've done over these past years to truly make a difference throughout the community.
Okay.
And before we begin, Christine, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be here in Manatee County.
Well, I started out pretty much like a lot of other people that have called this home. I started out as a tourist on Anna Maria Island. And my brother had moved here some years ago, and I used to visit him on the Gulf with my children. And I said, one day I'm going to live here. And that day came in 2000 when I moved from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and relocated to Anna Maria Island, and found my first and only job at the Rod and Reel Pier, which
Excellent place to work.
Yes, and continued to be employed there. And then shortly after, my daughter Tiffany, who decided to stay in Milwaukee at the present moment, she was in high school and involved in sports and cheerleading and that. She just wasn't ready to pack it up and leave. Friends, whatever. And so she stayed, and that was one of the hardest things, to leave her behind.
Sure.
But my son, Derek, who did move me from Milwaukee to Florida, said, "Mom, give her 3 months, she'll be calling you on the phone."
Yeah.
And sure enough, about 3 months later, I got that phone call at work, and she said, "All right, get me a plane ticket, I'm coming." And along came Tiffany, and this is where I am.
And so Tiffany moved down and was here, and you know, I'm sure that she loved the Florida sunshine compared to the cold weather up in Milwaukee.
Yes, yes. Well, she was a little fish. I mean, she just loved the water. She had taken up surfing. She did the Anna Maria Island Turtle Watch with me.
Good for her.
Got involved with that. Did the Moat Marine Aquarium. We did the whale and dolphin program together.
Excellent.
Which was an amazing. I continue to work and volunteer with Moat Marine. And then she met Dustin. And Dustin was going to be, I'm sure, the man she was going to marry.
That's
they fell in
wonderful.
love quickly, and we're planning their future together.
And you know, not only was she, you know, like a lovely young woman, but also involved and engaged in the community around her. And I know, Christine, you know, after 10 years, it's still not easy to talk about, but there came a time when, you know, tragedy struck. And if you would like, I'd like to hear about that specific time frame that occurred.
Like you said, it'll be 11 years that she'll be gone, December 7th of 2005. And it is as fresh in my mind right now as it was that night. I was watching a late movie, and I believe it was on Pope John Paul. It was a fascinating movie, and I went to bed about 11 p.m. About 11:15 or so, because I hadn't fallen asleep yet, my phone rang. And I truly thought it was my sisters back home in Milwaukee calling to just chit-chat or whatever. Excuse me. And so I really wasn't going to answer it. But I got this gut feeling. I said, just go and pick up the phone. So I picked up the phone, and it was my son, Derek. And he said, Mom, don't ask questions. She's been involved in an accident. Get to the hospital. And so I honestly, I don't even know if I had pajamas on. I don't know if I put clothes on. I don't remember anything except getting in my little red Honda and driving to Manatee Memorial Hospital. When I got there, Derek was in the parking lot, and we went into the emergency room together, said we were looking for Tiffany Olson, and their response was, well, she's not here. And through previous phone calls and series of events, I knew she had been in an accident. She's hurt somewhere, but the hospital is telling me that she's not at that hospital. And so I asked them, I said, well, can you check with another hospital? She's hurt, she's somewhere. And they, at that time, said because of the HIPAA law, we don't call other hospitals. And I just thought that didn't even make sense. I mean, she's hurt somewhere.
So here it is in the middle of the night, late at night,
Yeah.
you know, all but past midnight probably. You're at the hospital, you're dealing with the staff and everything, trying to find out what's happened to your daughter. And at that point, there's no information forthcoming.
No,
Nothing.
There's nothing. And I believe it was a security woman in the waiting room that just noticed the panic in my face, and I just didn't know what to do. I believe construction was going on at the time in Manatee Memorial. And when I asked them where the chapel was, they directed me through that barrier, make a left, make a right, and I believe I collapsed on the floor and just started crying. I didn't know what to do. And it was a security guard woman that jumped up, and I think she started making phone calls quick on her phone because it wasn't the hospital. That I'm aware of. But finally, 1:30 in the morning, I'm standing outside the entrance to the emergency room, and 2 highway patrol officers started walking toward me. And Charles, I can see this. I can see this happening right now in my head. My son Derek, who was about 30 years old at the time, is standing on my left, and he collapses and starts crying. And I'm like, no, not Tiffany.
And I can only imagine, Christine, you know, the pain and the trauma that you're going through, trying to determine not only what her status is, but, you know, whether she's well or she's being treated or what the circumstances are.
Exactly.
And the confusion and the fear that's going through your mind. And as the highway patrol officers came up to you at that point, you know, were they able at any point to give you any kind of information?
Well, I will never forget what they said, and they very casually said, sorry, she's gone. And I didn't know what that meant because all I could think of, she's gone, like where? And they said, well, we presume she's with the medical examiner, but they're closed. You can call them in the morning. And they handed me her plastic bag of belongings. And they said, can you sign for this? And sent me home. And that was that. And I looked at my son. I looked at my son and I said, Derek, I have to get gas. That's all I knew.
But at this point, too, you know, as her mother and you're the closest relative to her, you knew absolutely nothing about her status, you know, or about the accident that she was involved in, or where her whereabouts were at that particular time. So among the confusion and the trauma that you're going through and your son are going through, there's no forthcoming of information and nothing that is available for you to have ready access to, to see, you know, what her status is, where she is, you know, who. You had nothing.
Nothing.
So the following day, obviously, was the time that when you started to determine some of the facts.
Yeah, I remember going home that night and sat on the couch with my daughter's bag of belongings on my lap and just trying to let things sink in what just happened. And disbelief, crying, fear, panic, whatever. And the next day, I don't remember the days that followed. I know we did go to the accident scene, my son and I, and the markings were on the road. There were a lot of crosses up on the road. A lot of stories developed from people that heard the accident, ran out. There's a little blue bait shop on the corner called Skyway Bait. And those two men ran out, and they were the first people on the scene. There were numerous other people that came forward and told me that they knelt with her and that she never moved. She never blinked an eyelash. She was gone on impact. Dustin wasn't quite so lucky. He went down with the motorcycle that they were on and lived about a half hour, and they tried to bay flight him out, but he was just in too bad a shape. So he passed.
And this, as a mother, as her best friend probably, the trauma of going through this, of losing a loved one, is tremendous, and that fear and anxiety and that sense of loss is kind of overwhelming. But there was another sense to it as well, is that you should have known. I could have known. Why wasn't I informed? All of these things, kind of started to build in your mind of, this is my daughter. I'm her family. I should know where she is. And that kind of stayed with you for a period of time. And I guess through that initial period, when you have that sense of loss and that sense of mourning, that still you had that thing, I'm her parent. I should know about her status. And that was kind of the impetus for what became TIFF's initiative. And how did that kind of formulate for you, Christine?
Well, she was on the back of a motorcycle with Dustin, her boyfriend, and she didn't have her purse with her. She had her driver's license in her pocket. So things gravitated toward the driver's license. And my thought was just 6.5 hours it took for them to notify me. She was literally 15 minutes away from me. 15 minutes away from my residence, and it took 6.5 hours. And I thought, you know what? I mean, if it's happening to me, it's happening to other people.
Absolutely.
So I came up with the idea of what if there was something in that driver's license. Now, Charles, I don't have a background in government or law enforcement or technology or anything, but I knew there was something with that driver's license that had to be done. So I had a petition drive start up on Anna Maria Island at the Rod and Reel Pier where I work. And I didn't even know how to make a petition. I wrote it down on a yellow legal pad because I don't think we were Googling back then. To be honest, I don't think that was the norm. So we had the petition actually drawn up by one of the cooks in the kitchen, and the petitions went crazy because a lot of the people on the island, regular customers, they knew me, they knew my son Derek, and they knew Tiffany.
Right.
And so those people were printing them out online, printing them from me. They were going door to door, and the petitions got like a lot of petitions. I mean, a lot of signatures rather on the petitions. So I didn't even know what the next step was. So I went to my state representative. I was told, this is who you need to go see next. And I don't remember who told me that. But I went to State Representative Bill Galvano's office, and I took my petitions and I told them the idea of putting emergency contact information somehow into that driver's license. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, "This is amazing." And he then took it to the Department of Motor Vehicles in Tallahassee, and their response, our government, pretty much said, "Why haven't we done this
before?
Why haven't we done this? We're doing this immediately." 6 months later, it was born, and October 2nd of 2006, I literally was the first person in the world to register, under stress of cameras on me and all the media, my emergency contact information, where it went directly into my driver's license. And I just couldn't believe that this was happening.
And I must say, Christine, I think, out of the tragedy, it is, that simple, beautiful idea of saying, I don't want anyone else to go through the pain and the anguish that I went through, waiting 6.5 hours for some kind of notification when, someone can be contacted and to be there. in the event of a terrible accident. And I think the success that you had, not only with getting petitions signed by so many people and, you know, Representative, now Senator Galvano responding to you, is that it's such a simple, common sense idea that really resonated with people.
Well, yes, it did, and I'd really like to, emphasize that this is something you can do immediately. This is something you can do literally right on your phone. So when you go to the website to Inform Families First, pull it up on an iPad, computer, your phone, whatever mobile device, you literally can register right here. You don't have to make a special trip to the tax collector or anything like that. Pick it up, put your contact information in, hit submit. Right from my phone. And instantly it goes into the magnetic strip on your Florida driver's license. Instantly. What kind of blows my mind is that from an idea that never existed in the entire world is happening right here in our state of Florida, but it's gaining a lot of attention.
And it certainly is. And I just want to bring people's attention, not only, you know, from this very humble beginning that you started on Anna Maria Island with a petition, you know, it's a statewide, you know, phenomenon, you know, that people are flocking to, but other states, other regions and the world are looking at this concept of being, this is a beautiful idea, it's simple, it's direct, and it's easy for people to register.
And it literally takes you less than 2 minutes, and it's free. So currently, like, you know, I said, from an idea that never existed in the world, we are currently at about 11 million people registered in the state of Florida. I think 5 or 6 states are now participating, 3 more are looking at it, and they are just watching. All eyes are on Florida right now because they're wondering how fast and how well this is really working for our state. And the state of Florida is, you know, just so happy with this program. And they're sharing it with a lot. I mean, the state of Florida is very, very busy involved in getting these people registered. It is part of the registration process when you register online. So they're making every effort. They're answering a lot of questions from other states. They're even getting calls from troopers in other states that are pulling people over, and they're saying, what is this emergency contact program? So these troopers in another state are calling the state of Florida. State of Florida says this is what they're doing. They're taking it to their state directors and saying, why aren't we doing this? We need to get this done. Because once you've registered, now remember, for Tiffany, she was 15 minutes away, and it took law enforcement 6.5 hours to contact me, her mother. When you've registered with this free program, taking you 2 minutes, literally what happens if you are involved in an accident, medical emergency, something's going on where you verbally cannot speak. Law enforcement shows up at the emergency, and we don't want to use the word tragedy. This is an emergency. We have hurricane season right around the corner. This is an emergency. That law enforcement shows up, takes your license, scans it, and the contacts that you've put in are the contacts they will be reaching out to. And say,
listen, and you know, here's another, you know, a wonderful facet about this. I mean, this for seniors, for young, you know, young drivers, you know, this is important information. I would see, you know, that family members need to be encouraging their teenagers, their children, get that license. I want that emergency contact information on there. If you're a senior and your parents are out there, let's get their information on that for an emergency. You know, in this age of you know, Alzheimer's, where people wander thing, if that information is available, it's there, it's available, so one can prevent this anguish that you went through. I see it as a tremendous tool that can continue to educate, inform families about the importance of an emergency notification. God forbid that this ever has to happen and occur, but you know, if it's there, can you imagine the trauma and the anguish that can be prevented?
Well, too, this is, like I said, it's an emergency, and it might be someone you love or yourself rushed to an emergency room, and there needs to be some kind of communication with the emergency room staff, the doctors there, and that letting you know that this is what's going on. It could be a pregnant mother going into labor, and the husband's worried sick. It could be that brand new driver that the parents are like, call me every minute, or you're running a little late. It's for every situation, and it just brings a sense of peace of mind knowing that law enforcement has some tool to work with. Because right now...
There isn't.
Right now, if you look at your license, anyone's license, all you have is a name and an address on it. This is what they have. They have a name and an address.
Correct.
If that address is not current or there's nobody home, what do you want them to do? That is what is leading to the national average of 6 hours before a notification is made. That's a national average, not Florida.
And that's way too long.
It's way too long.
In the event that you, as a family member, and you want to be able to be responsive to, in case of an emergency, you want to be notified as quickly as possible. And that's a simple fact. I think with TIFF's initiative, what you've done is kind of like forged ahead and said, let's get it on a driver's license. Who do you want to, and those can be updated. Correct?
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
You want to change your emergency notification?
Absolutely.
You can go online or through the thing and just update it just like that.
And I'll tell you, I was recently at an event at the Civic Center, and I had a man named Dean come up to my table. He was from New Jersey, hoping to relocate to Florida. And I said, well, it's in New Jersey. And he picked up my iPad, registered himself right through the iPad. He's registering with his New Jersey driver's license for New Jersey, contacting his wife, telling her, register immediately.
Excellent.
They're from Florida. So in Florida, we have a lot of tourists. And I give them a bracelet. I'm always equipped with my little purple bracelets. And I tell them, before you even go home, back to your state, if that state is now participating, register right now.
Exactly.
Do it right now, because all the states that are participating are on the website as close as your phone. And
it's such an easy process.
And it's a win-win.
And it very much is, as a young person or as a family member, you want your family to be aware of anything that could have happened to you in case of any kind of emergency, and just for the peace of mind that that it can provide. It's not going to prevent anything, but if you can give someone peace of mind to know that, this is an emergency situation, something's happening, and the notification to know that how you can prepare yourself instead of the torturous 6.5 hours that one is having to wait to get some kind of information. And that's a terrible thing. Now, Christine, I want to go through a few things with you in the remaining time that we have, because this is such a tremendous program, and I can't believe it's been 10 years. We've been working with you off and on for a while now, but a 10-year anniversary is a significant achievement. And having 11 million people registered in the state of Florida, you should be very, very proud of that. And hats off to all of those people that have helped you, like Senator Galvano, the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, and all of those organizations that see the value and see the merit of what you're trying to accomplish. But your task is not quite over. There's some other things that you'd like to see TIFF's initiative accomplish, and what would those be?
Well, currently we're at about 65% of the state of Florida registered. My goal for this year is to get 100%. Every single person driving a car with a driver's license, permit, or ID card. Can also do an ID card for the elderly. That 100% of our state is registered by the end of this year.
That's tremendous.
Big goals, I have them, and I believe with the people that have come up to me and surrounded me with, with help, it can be done. But it takes everybody just taking a second right now and register your emergency contact information
and we're
today.
going to have that information up on the screen so people, and there's a couple of different ways. You can go to www.toinformfamiliesfirst.org and they can register right there. or they can go to www.flhsmv.gov and then follow the ECI link.
The prompting.
So there's a couple of different easy ways that you can register your emergency information.
And literally it takes 2 minutes to do it, so do it today. Don't prolong it, don't think about it, just do it, get it done. But once you've registered, make sure you share that information with others via Facebook, social media,
Right.
friendships. Send it to your family members. Guys, let's all get on board with this. But besides just the state of Florida, now we have the other states looking at it. And I was going to be done with Florida. I thought, that was enough, because I talk about her story every day, and it's extremely hard
I can imagine.
to just walk myself through that day after day. But there's other people, and my purpose and passion literally is to make sure what happened to me never happens again. We have to stop it. We have to change it. And we are the change. By registering, we are the change. So take it through the United States, I guess. Take it around the world,
Maybe.
okay.
Well, I would say to you, Christine, knowing how dynamic and how committed and how totally focused you are on this, your mission is not quite over.
It's not.
You've got, and even though you've made tremendous strides here in Florida, there's still more to do. Every graduating class, as we get into graduation season in just a few short weeks, every young driver that's out there should have on his driver's information emergency contact. Everybody who has a driver's license, how easy it is to register and how quick and effective and what peace of mind that you can bring to your loved one. And I would say to you, Christine, that your job is not over. You have a force and a drive and an ambition in you to see that this happens throughout the country and hopefully throughout the world. And I would say, as we kind of wind down, because I want to give you a few minutes to talk about it, I would say and suggest to you that TIFF legacy is this initiative that you've given birth to. It's a wonderful thing. It's great for families. It's wonderful for people to have that kind of security of knowing that I will get notified if something happens. I won't have to wait around and be scared and afraid and lost and
When
panic.
someone doesn't answer a phone or whatever, yeah.
And go through the trauma that you did. So in 10 years, you've accomplished an extraordinary amount, and this community should be very thankful for what you've done. But also all of these families that know that they have the confidence of being notified in case their loved one is in any kind of emergency. What do you want this community to know about the importance of TIFF's initiative and what you would like to see go forward?
Well, the importance is facing the reality that the national average is 6 hours. And just put yourself or your family or loved ones in that position. When they go off to school, when they go off to work, will it take 6 hours for law enforcement to contact you? Accidents, emergencies happen. You hear the sirens on the road all the time. So things are going on for some family out there. I personally never want anything to happen that would delay that notification.
Sure.
Never. So if everybody gets on board and everybody steps up and says, I can contact 5 people, I can register my family, tell 5 people, and they tell 5, and they tell 5. Just think of the ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Think of the ripple effect. But it's all about doing something good for another human being. There's so much garbage going on in our world. Do something good. Feel good about doing it, and share a good word with someone.
Well, we're very fortunate that you've initiated this wonderful outreach, and it's this community, this state, and this entire region and the nation should be very thankful that from your tragedy, from your personal tragedy, you found something that you wanted to create as a legacy to TIFF. And for that, we are very thankful. And what you do and your continued success with this is a wonderful project. In 10 years, you've accomplished so much. And I would say to you that in another 10 years, you'll even accomplish even more. And finally, what would your final remarks be about why this program is so important to families?
It's a sense of security. It's a sense of peace of mind. It just gives you a little bit of that comfort knowing that you can be reached. But honestly, Charles, you know, this whole thing, this whole program, I don't believe I could have done it without my faith in God. It wouldn't have been happening. I believe Tiffany is watching over her mom. You know, I feel her presence a lot, and giving me strength and courage to keep going forward. But you know, we're all placed on this planet for a reason. We really are. You should find something to do that you can benefit another human being.
Right.
And this is what I am doing in my daughter's name, Tiffany Marie Olson, for other people, and to leave a legacy for her, for myself, for my family, for my son, and to do, you know, leave this planet just feeling good about it. So,
well, we are very fortunate that to have you. And we can't thank you enough for sharing the story, and also, you know, for spearheading this wonderful campaign to inform families first. We're very fortunate to have you in this community, Christine, and we want to thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us on this special edition of Up Close on METV. Find out how you can register yourself or your loved ones on TIFF's initiative by going to the websites that are on the screen. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Up Close on METV.